I always pictured myself as a strong man of honor. A barbarian, my enemies call me. And they are not wrong. My strength surpasses many, and my will resilient. So I jumped at the opportunity to test my mettle when Raha Humabon called forth great warriors to undertake his dangerous quests. Quests that brought me to battle against dark and powerful creatures. And all of it for the protection and prosperity of Timanduk and its people. But it was during this call of warriors where my honor and strength wavered for the first time. There were 4 others with me, the Carabao Tiefling headhunter and his cursed rogue friend, the volcano cleric, and a water genasi bard. Her sibling was the druid in our party who had fallen in battle not too long ago. We met with the Raha to undertake another quest. This one a bit more delicate, and failure could mean instability in Timanduk. Datu Taklub of the Ashen Fields village had requested aid. His son, along with 3 other young boys, had fallen ill from a disease in which his babaylan could not cure. They suspected it to come from a darker or nefarious source. Datu Taklub leads the village in which most crops are grown for the whole island of Timanduk, and his absence with managing this season's harvest would result to dire consequences for the island. We are to be sent to help the Datu so that Ashen Fields village can continue with their harvest. As we arrived in the Ashen Fields village, the day is hot. We can see beefy tieflings heft large bushels of dried vines over their shoulder, following the other villagers towards this season's swath of land. A few of the elder tieflings await them, horns broad and majestic, as their hands glow with the fire of Nulkab itself. Carefully, they scatter their brush, and standing beside one another, we watch the field burn. For a few days, we know this land will lay blackened and barren, but slowly, green will return to the fields. Hardy crops will sprout, more bountiful than ever. And when the time comes, the villagers will once again clear the field, gather their bushel of dried brush, and move to the next tract of land to be set ablaze. This is the Ashen Fields, the ever-shifting farms born of fire. The hierarchy and politics of this village is very specific. The village requires a Datu born of the noble Carabao Tiefling line of chieftains. The Datu and the Babaylan are to communicate with the land and its people to bring forth a great harvest. Without the leadership of the Datu, the village would destabilize until a new Datu is in place. It is the way of the Tieflings that they must have a strong member of their community to lead the herd. It didn't take us long to find the Datu's home. Inside, an old human babaylan is using spirit magic on the bedridden son of the Datu. His son looks almost at death's door and covered in painful boils. The babaylan has explained that the victim's disease is not natural, but instead caused by vile magic. A white centipede tattoo on the chest of the victim are acting as magical focus of the disease, and it is not so easily removed by conventional or magical means. Our party was told that the boys were healthy, but after venturing near the sacred grove, they came back sick, and the sickness is growing by the day. Worst of all, the Datu is in a dark state. He does not eat, nor barely recognize others who speak with him. All he does is stay at the bedside of his son. We fear the worst if things don't improve for the sick boys. The village needs its head. So we decided to visit the last place in which the boys had gotten the sickness, the sacred grove. The grove is a vibrant well of spiritual energy. There are dozens of them around the island and are places to which babaylans can communicate with the spirits. This was one of the smaller groves. Here we found the tracks of the boys leading to a small cave. We entered to find black stones along the walls and on the ground. Our volcano cleric identified them to be obsidian beetle eggs, insects that consume on dark spiritual energies. Unfortunately, while we were investigating the cave, the volcano Nulkab had one of its episodic shakes. The sudden quake had knocked some of us off balance. Two of our party had broken some of the eggs. Then, we began to hear the cracking and buzzing sounds. The eggs were hatching. In a haste, we ran outside the cave, chased by a swarm of obsidian beetles. The beetles' pincers were sharp, but not poisonous. We escaped with a few scratches. But while we were catching our breath, something strange had occurred. The beetles had swarmed towards a humanoid in robes. He had a maddened look about him, and opened his elongated mouth to shoot out a swarm of insects against our group. The swarm passed me by to attack the two who broke the eggs. Just as soon as the attack occurred, the insects dispersed, and the man had vanished. Our two party members had survived only to find white centipede tattoos on their chests. This was not good. With the information gathered, we discovered the rogue culprit to be a MAMBABARANG, dark druids, or as the locals call them, insect sorcerers. They are entities that mastered a magic called the incurable illness. Normally they can be summoned to inflict disease on your enemies, or to call upon their knowledge on other abnormal illnesses. But the price for their service is usually very steep and difficult to pay. One thing about the MAMBABARANG is their love for their insects. They consider them as their own children. If harmed, then the wrath of the MAMBABARANG would fall on the perpetrator. It now made sense. Just like our two companions, the young boys must have accidentally destroyed a few of the obsidian eggs. This then brought the MAMBABARANG's deadly magic upon them. If this was the case, then the only solution would be to have the MAMBABARANG remove the disease, or kill the MAMBABARANG who casted it in the first place. Easier said than done. The MAMBABARANGs are deadly casters feared with good reason. We imagined that if we battled the Dark Druid, then our odds of surviving would not go in our favor. So instead, a deal could be made. The group wanted to summon the MAMBABARANG and barter for the lives of those cursed by the disease. I didn't like the plan. A good swing of my weapon would usually be the answer to most problems. But I decided to follow with the group's decision. Later that night, we arranged dark candles and foul-smelling incense around the sacred grove. Our cursed rogue was familiar with these kind of things, and as such, he began the chant to summon the MAMBABARANG. The candles soon burnt to black flames. The air became still, and a foulness seeped in. A swarm of insects converged to form the visage of a robed man. His voice was deep and guttural. "Why have you summoned me?" The tension in the air was palpable. our bard stepped forth and requested to have the disease be lifted from the victims. At first, the MAMBABARANG was unwilling, but with further thought, he agreed to do so, but with a condition. 6 of his obsidian children had lost their lives, and so 6 lives are to be taken as payment. They may present the 6 for the MAMBABARANG to take, or if one is willing to be sacrificed, then that person will receive the disease of all 6 people. The pain would be excruciating and death would follow quickly. The demand was set, and we were divided. This was ridiculous. We should have just attacked while we could and hoped that the disease would be lifted after killing the MAMBABARANG. But the others did not wish to fight the dark entity. They feared a fight with it could not be won, and so 2 wanted to kidnap 6 villagers for the cost, while the other 2 figured that a single death could be much better than the alternative. The debate became heated, and our true faces worn. None of us wanted to die. Even I, who embodied strength and honor, was struck down with the fear of death. In the end, we decided one willing sacrifice was needed for the good of all. Unfortunately, we couldn't decide who that sacrifice would be. But the MAMBABARANG knew whose heart truly wished for death, so that the others may live, and the disease would be lifted. The MAMBABARANG took the Datu's life. We returned to a village in chaos. The Datu had died, and the boils around his body exploded to birth new obsidian beetles. The Babaylan had told us that the 4 young boys had been cured, and our 2 companions had also discovered the white centipede tattoo on their chests gone. We bartered a coward's deal, and so the village suffers for it. With the Datu gone, it was up to the Babaylan to bring a semblance of order until the new Datu grows of age. As we returned that lonely night, none of us dared to speak. The deed was done, and it is something we must live with. It was only now that I had doubt in myself and the others. If ever we would truly be the warriors Timanduk needs. Thanks for listening. Continue rolling those dice. And if you like my content, then like and subscribe so I can upload more stories like this in the future. Goodbye.